This is, we're not
Oh,
talking
so
about we're not talking about the Cowboys this episode.
yeah, I was gonna say
We're
Feist is
talking
gone now. It's
about
all
the
Steelers.
Pittsburgh Steelers. All right, this is a better franchise to listen to. Okay.
And welcome back to another episode of your favorite couch potatoes. I am your host Kyle, joined by just Big Country today. Feist unfortunately had some things pop up. He's not be able to make it today, so just be us down, holding down the fort. Sound good with you, Wes?
Oh, it sounds great, bud. Sounds great.
Maybe we have less Cowboys talk today. I think we'll have a little bit, but
Oh, we definitely will, but it's not going to be good news about the Cowboys. It'll be shit
yep.
on the Cowboys.
There, there we go. There we go. All right. Well, let's before we get into the NFL, let's start with our sports news around the world segment. So, wanted to start off with probably the funniest thing I've seen in sports over the past week, and that was Eddie Hall fighting. I don't know if it was two dwarfs or if they just looked like dwarfs because Eddie Hall's so fucking massive, but yeah, it was pretty entertaining to see, and I think it was a 3 round fight, and it went to the third round before he eventually knocked him out. Just knocked him out clean.
Well, I noticed that it kind of went like if he were to knock one of them out, then they ended the fight because he he threw one down and basically just threw one right hook that looked like it was down next to his knees, and just clocked one of them, and then and then they ended the fight because the other one was still the other guy was still trying
He
to
was
chase him.
still up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't see too much about like what happened or like the rules and stuff like that. So I guess maybe he just had to knock one of them out. He didn't have to knock them both out.
That's what it seemed like. That's what it seemed like to me. I don't know any of the. I didn't know any of the rules either. That's just the final highlight. That's what it kind of looked like. So
Yeah, I should have looked into that more. I like to follow Eddie Hall. He's always a character, so I'll have to maybe see and update that next time. But yeah, if you haven't seen the clips, go look at it. It'll definitely brighten your day. But yeah, so let's move on to some more news. Kind of a big headline that maybe is too big of a headline just because she's always a big headline. Caitlin Clark, she was snubbed off of Team USA's basketball team for this
yeah,
upcoming Olympics. Um, no, she said she wasn't mad or didn't have any hard feelings. And I mean, the thing about it is the U.S. women's team has won 8 straight golds at the Olympics, so it'd be pretty crazy for a rookie, even if it's Caitlin Clark, to make it. But yeah, I don't know. I think I don't know about you, but I think it's a little overblown just because the whole world's talking about her right now. But yeah, what do you think?
yeah. I mean, I think it is too. I mean, it's the USA team, right? I mean, it's not like I think the men's team only takes on what, two rookies because they have to, or something like that, or two college kids because they have to.
I think they used to, and I think it's changed now. So I bet they don't even do that anymore.
Oh. Yeah, because I mean, I don't know. It's not like I don't think it's a huge deal to me personally. I mean, Caitlin Clark is killing it. Everybody knew she'd be killing it in the WNBA.
Yep.
I mean, she's dropping at least 20 to 30, points every night. Um,
Right.
and so it's just, I mean, I feel like I definitely think it's a little overblown. She's an amazing talent, but she is a rookie. She can't. It's not like she can have everything just right out the gate. You know what I mean?
Right.
Gotta earn it a little bit. So,
Yeah, and looking at like the women's team, it's stacked. So it's like it's not like there was just spots available to be thrown in. And but I'm sure next Olympics and every Olympics she wants to be in going forward, she'll be the headliner, if not just a part of that team. So
yep.
let's move on to our last segment of sports news around the world. I don't. This just came out today, and I don't know how you feel about this, but July 4th just won't be the same because Joey Chestnut, the biggest, baddest, probably most dominant, if you want to call the eating a sport, because he's a 6-time hot dog eating contest champion. And he's got like 8 straight wins, and he always just wins it by a landslide. But I don't even know, 10, 15, 20 hot dogs. Like, it's not even close. And he's got banned. So I don't know if you heard about this. He's banned from the competition because he's supporting a rival brand of hot dog. Like, he's got a partnership with them.
That's
So, yeah.
that's yeah. I didn't know anything about that. That's insane. I mean, just because I mean, when they do this competition, they only have one brand of hot dog. That's you
Yeah,
know.
It's Nathan's famous hot dog eating contest or whatever it is.
Oh, is that okay? Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's I don't know. It's just weird to me. I mean, the guy that's ever competed, like you're gonna drop him
Seriously.
for that. I mean, and it's also weird for Joey Chestnut to choose a rival thing, when this has been his competition now for rival
Yeah,
hot
right.
dog.
You're the face of this thing. Like, I honestly really think that everybody, tunes in or goes to that competition for Joey, like at this point,
Oh
just
yeah,
because of what he can do, right?
yeah.
So, in reading the article, it sounded like maybe things can be worked out by next month. But yeah, it just said he was banned. I'm like, oh no, that's tragic, tragic for America.
All right. Well,
So,
you know, as fun as eating hot dogs is, we gotta move on to some of my favorite sports news. NFL. I got some NFL talk.
yes, sir.
Christian McCaffrey has signed a 2-year extension with the 49ers that averages $19 million a year. So, I mean,
Nice.
he got paid. He got paid. But I mean, what does that bring up? What questions? Who are they going to keep? Type of thing. Are they
Right.
going to keep Brandon Ayuk? Are they going to Debo Samuel? I mean, they've got some guys they got to pay, and I mean, I understand that Brock Purdy's contract is the only thing keeping them afloat right now, and that's such a fucking talented team. Um,
Hmm.
but I mean, I don't know. I don't know how do you keep that team together.
Right. I mean, we were talking about that last week before we knew about this deal for Christian McCaffrey, and because we were talking about Ayuk and how many people they had, and I think it's a good choice to pick McCaffrey, obviously, over just about anybody else on that team. I mean, just because of what he can do in all facets of the game and how dominant he is,
Yeah,
both running and catching the ball. So I think that's kind of a no-brainer to pick him. Um, Now you still need all those other positions, but yeah, I mean, 19 million, that's not cheap for a running back, not in any means. So that'll be interesting to see. I mean, I know you're looking forward to some possible Brandon Ayuk deal. I wouldn't mind it as well, or a Debo thing. But yeah, it kind of feels like there's at least one of those guys, like we were saying last week, is going to have to go. And I think that's even more solidified with this signing with Christian McCaffrey.
yeah, no, and I definitely think so. I mean, they're gonna. I mean, at some point they got to make room if they're gonna pay Brock Purdy big money. At some
Yep.
point, then they've got to make room somewhere. But Christian McCaffrey also this season made the Madden cover, so
Oh,
congrats to him.
maybe don't want to pick him in fantasy then. You know what, that Madden curse, I don't know.
Who was on the Madden cover last year? Do you know? 'Cause I thought
Oh
that
man,
curse
I
had
have
died.
been. It did kind of die. I think it has kind of died. Like, I know when Brady got it a couple of times, like, he was fine. I think Mahomes was fine when it was him and Brady. Gosh, who was last year? That's terrible. I can't remember. Was it Josh? It was Josh Allen. It was Josh Allen
Josh Allen.
when he was
That's
like in
right.
the crowd or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess nothing happened to him except for what always happens to the Bills, so you can't really blame it on the Madden curse.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but yeah, I mean, let's be honest here. Christian McCaffrey has been hurt a lot in his career.
Hmm. Yep.
Doesn't have to be, used as much anymore. But um, moving on, we got some Steelers news.
Nice.
Big news. I love it. They sign Mike Tomlin to a 3-year extension that'll keep him in Pittsburgh till 2027. He is the longest tenured head coach in the NFL.
Hell
I
yeah.
I love
You're
it.
welcome.
I love it. I mean, I just don't know how you can go away from Mike Tomlin. I know that the Steelers have had a lot of one win above 500 seasons for a few years now, but you got to look at the teams that have been going out there. No offense. I mean, especially the
Mhm.
last couple of years of Big Ben. I mean, there's zero offense there. And then Mike Tomlin puts these amazing defenses out on the field that get overlooked because there's no offense. And this is why they're able to go 9-8 and have Mike Tomlin be the only head coach to have or to never have a losing record. You know,
Right. Yep.
somebody's
I
got to be able to put that team together.
Yeah. And I've always been a fan of Tomlin. I mean, I know that there was a lot of rumors because it was going to be his contract year coming up this next year, and a lot of Steelers fans. There was a lot of debate, at least what I was hearing in Steelers fans and stuff. It seemed like the real Steelers fans were like you, where like you never doubt Mike Tomlin, but at the same time, like that conversation was definitely happening, and it's just I don't know, it's just so hard. I think he's a players coach. Players love him. He establishes a great culture at the same time. And yeah, like the thing is, not only just 9-8 and stuff, but you've been making the playoffs, and um, like I know it's been like first round exits if you did make it and stuff. Like I think you had was it the Bills last season,
Yeah.
and I think like everybody knew, like yeah, Steelers, they got Mitch Trubisky or Kenny Pickett out there at quarterback. Like it's not gonna beat Josh Allen and the Bills, but yeah, I like it. And now you got this, interesting quarterback controversy, if you want to call it, or just battle with their two guys. And I think they're both on 1 year deals. So it's like they both got prove it's, and it's not like you're locked into either one of them. You'll have options moving forward, and hopefully that offense just continues to grow and you have more competent quarterback play, I'll say.
No, I mean I hope so too. I mean, I've always loved Mike Tomlin. I think he's a great team builder. Obviously, we've been in a rut for these last 4 to 5 years, but yeah, I mean, there's a reason. Like I said, there's a reason why he's never had a losing season in his whole career. So,
Yep.
um, moving on here to some more Steelers news. Um, the Steelers sign cornerback Cameron Sutton to a 1 year deal. He played with the Steelers for his first 6 seasons in the league. The Steelers did the right thing. I also agree. You know what I mean? Like it's Cameron Sutton's had a lot in his past,
Hmm.
especially last year. And so I mean, it's a great signing for them. I think because he played well with them the first 6 seasons. I don't think he ever became that number one cornerback, and they let him go after his sixth season in Pittsburgh, and he went to Detroit, and then
Yep.
obviously he had some problems there. So
Yeah, I mean, I saw when we were talking about a little bit before the show. I was like, yeah, because I saw he was with the Lions, and so I was like, what kind of contract did he get? Yet I looked it up, and he had a pretty decent contract. It said, I think 3 years, 33 million, and that was just signed last year with the Lions. And so, yeah, obviously now he was cut. He had domestic battery charges. Sounded kind of crazy. I hadn't heard too much about it. I know you had talked about like kind of hearing stuff, seen some videos and stuff, but he like was on the run. It was almost like he was, I think you said a missing persons, almost like they couldn't find him forever. And but he eventually turned himself in, and that's kind of what I saw just looking through it. And I'm not sure how he like got off because everything just says he could have faced up to 5 years in prison. So there must be something that I'm missing there. But yeah, did you have any more on that? You said you saw like videos and stuff.
yeah, I mean I saw. Obviously, these were just like TikTok videos and stuff, but I seen there was a fake news story that came out, about him in that 7 week span, I believe it was, that he was missing after he got the charges released on him. Um, and nobody could find him. Nobody could contact him. None of his family members, families, friends, teammates, nobody could find him for 7 weeks. And so, obviously, when you do that, there's going to be theories thrown out there,
Yeah.
and a lot of people really ran with some of them stories. Like there was a body found in the Detroit water treatment at Ford Field.
Jeez.
Probably about, I think it was around 2005, and they switched the story.
Oh, oh my gosh. Wow.
They switched the story and made it seem like, oh, they found Cameron Sutton. And yeah, I mean, it was crazy, crazy stories and stuff like that on TikTok. But yeah, he eventually turned himself in, and everybody found out he was fine.
Yeah. Well, hopefully for him, right? Like you said, it's a 1 year deal, so sounds like a prove it, like last chance kind of thing. Like don't screw up again, and hopefully going back to a familiar system for him is a perfect place for that, and it works out for you guys, and everybody kind of moves on from it.
Right, right. Just a little bit. We got a couple more stories, right? We got a couple more stories. This is, we're not
Oh,
talking
so
about we're not talking about the Cowboys this episode.
yeah, I was gonna say
We're
Feist is
talking
gone now. It's
about
all
the Pittsburgh
Steelers.
Steelers. All right, this is a better franchise to listen to. Okay. But anyways, Cameron Hayward returns to practice amid his contract negotiations. I know that he's been trying to find his. He's been trying to get this contract now since last season. Um, he feels like he's still an elite player in the NFL. I think he's. I can't remember how old he is. I think he's 35, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, somewhere around there, right? Early to mid 30s, something like that.
Yeah,
So older for a football player for sure.
older, especially for playing D end in the NFL. You know what I mean? Like those guys don't last as long as other positions do. Um, yeah, I mean, I thought he was good last year when he was on the field. You know what I mean? I'm not
Mm.
like I like Cameron Hayward. I think he's a great player. But at his old age, it seems like he's not, you know, being able to stay on the field as much.
Right. So the productiveness is still there when he's available, but that's what they always say, right? The best ability is availability or whatever. So if you got to stay on the field, I I'm glad he returned to practice. I think he's always seemed like a stand-up guy. Didn't he win Walter Payton Man of the Year
He did,
one
yeah,
year? Yeah.
yeah,
So I mean, like he seems like a great guy. He's not going to be that like ruin it for his team or be selfish or anything like that. Not that every situation is the player being selfish, but just
yeah,
saying that he's thinking about the team, and stuff. And he's always seemed like a great guy. Always been a fan of him, even from outside the fanhood of that organization. So hopefully it kind of works out and you guys find kind of a deal because, I mean, hell, if he was, on the Patriots, I'd want to keep him, even if it's a reasonable price, I'd want to keep him
right,
on the team to be able to play, especially, that's a guy you definitely want come the end of the season in the playoffs to be able to
right.
disrupt everything.
And I mean, Cameron, I know we talked about it a lot. I don't know. I think it was about a month ago, and it was all about like the leadership in the locker room and stuff like that. This guy, this guy is the leadership of the locker room. He is a Steelers man. He lives by the Steelers tradition. He played with the guys. I think he played with Troy Polamalu and Ike Taylor and all of those guys. Um, I he is he is Pittsburgh Steelers football basically, and
Yeah,
I don't see him leaving until he retires type of thing. Um,
right.
so moving on here, another another Steelers story. I love talking about my
Oh
Steelers.
my gosh, let me
All
just
right.
look up some other stuff while you're doing that. Man, I'm just kidding. What you got for us this time?
So we got this just happened. This just came out today, actually, as we record this. Russell Wilson feels the fountain of youth and rejuvenated after the team's first mandatory minicamp practice. And I always I felt like Russell Wilson still has the talent and the ability to do what he wants to do. I don't
Hmm.
think the system in Denver was the correct system for him. I'm hoping that this new system in Pittsburgh kind of, like he's saying, rejuvenates his career and he plays a little better because I think what it's going to happen is that going into the season, Russell Wilson will start. I know that
Yeah.
it's a QB controversy right now, but I definitely think Russell Wilson will be the starter come week one. So hopefully, like he's saying here, it's actually rejuvenated his career.
Yeah. I think that's exactly, yeah, that's what you want to hear. I mean, talk is all, you know, means so much at this point of the year, especially, but that's exactly what you want, right? Because that's what he needs. He needs to have a rejuvenation. He needs to get back to, like you said, what he was able to do, and hopefully it's the system and everything. And I think for you guys, it's going to be best if he's on the field the whole season. Like I think, like you said, he should be the one that starts. And so as far as like how your team success is going, it's probably good if he stays on the field because if he doesn't, that means there were some bad games, and you when you have to make a QB change, that's a big deal. So hopefully, yeah, it works out and it's not all talk come September.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, I mean, I would hate to have Justin Fields sit on the bench and then us not give him a contract. I'm still so dumbfounded we didn't pick up his fifth year option.
Yeah, because are you wanting him to be the like possibly be the future? Like, are you would you prefer Russell Wilson on just a one, maybe a 2 year deal if he needs it, or like extend him another year, or what are you kind of wanting there?
No, I mean, I feel like Russell Wilson at this point in his career, I don't think he is like a franchise quarterback now. I feel like he's just kind of a bridge quarterback at this point. To bridge you on, like he'll come in, play decent, play well, play good enough to get you into a good spot during the season,
Hmm.
and kind of coach up the lower talent. Because I feel like Justin Fields can be, prime Russell Wilson if put in the right system. And
Yeah,
so I definitely would
even
like I definitely would like to see Russell Wilson only play maybe a year or two, let Justin Fields come in, show what he can do, and then go from there.
gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, let's get out of the Steelers world. Sorry, viewers. I know that was a long segment.
Hey,
And
that's the best segment we've ever had.
okay, whatever you say there, bud. No. Well, like I said, we did have some Cowboys news, but like you said, or like you said, Wes, it's not great, but I'm sure it's. I'm thinking it'll get figured out, at least for this guy. CeeDee Lamb is still. He remained out of mini camp amid his contract disputes, as well as Brandon Ayuk. But I did see a big name, Jamar Chase. He returned, so maybe that's just kind of like a good news. Like they're expecting something to be, figured out in the coming weeks or days or whatever. But yeah, so big names, lots of big names with mini camp kind of issues this season, especially these wide receivers. You got any thoughts on that?
No, I mean I think CD Lamb deserves the contract. Um,
Mhm.
I don't think like we said before. I mean, he deserves big money. I don't think he deserves more than Justin Jefferson, but I think he
Yeah.
deserves big money. Same place as Brandon Ayuk. I think CD Lamb's better than Brandon Ayuk, but
Yep.
Brandon Ayuk still deserves big money. And then, like you said, Jamar Chase returning. That's obviously got to show some good sign of their contract negotiations. I did see though. I think T. Higgins still isn't at practice.
Still is out.
Yeah. So there's still some
Well,
contract dispute right there. So
hopefully he's coming to the Patriots, man. I know there's been a lot of rumors there. I'd love him now. Yeah, I know I was a little bit ambitious, I guess maybe is the word when we talked about it a few podcasts ago with a second round pick or something. That would probably be too much for him, but yeah, hopefully we can get him here. Speaking of like ridiculous trades, though, I think it was the same thing. I don't know what Bleacher Report does, but I just saw this and I had to, because it was all three of our teams. It had to do with Feist's Cowboys and then my Patriots and your Steelers. So I'll just list off the page. I'll list them both off, and you can say whatever. But so one of them was the Patriots give up our next year's first round pick, and then this year's the pick we already made, a second round pick wide receiver, Jalen Polk, for CD Lamb. So basically, you're saying a first and a second round pick for CD Lamb. Now I know CD Lamb's good. I think, like we said, like we've all agreed, he's the top three
Yeah,
receiver in the league.
yeah, yeah.
But that is just a lot of draft capital to be able to give up for CD Lamb, or just really anybody.
Yeah, no, I mean you got to be something special, to get something like that. Not saying CD Lamb's not, but you only see trades like that for like, I don't know, big name quarterback,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a big name running back, just because quarterback, one of the most important pieces of your team. Running backs don't last as long, so their draft capital goes up.
Yeah.
Um, type of thing. Wide receivers can last pretty long in this league now, with all the lovely rule changes that the NFL likes to do. Um, yeah, I think a first round and a second round pick are pretty insane for a wide receiver at this point in his career.
Well, let me offer one more. Let's see if it's any less insane or if it makes any sense. It was to the Steelers. So the Steelers get CD Lamb for George Pickens and a second round pick.
Man,
So I know George
I'll walk
Pickens.
out right now.
I was gonna say I know
I'm
George
just
Pickens wasn't a first round pick, but he's definitely like a. All right. He's not even. He's not even gonna answer. I don't know why. Like I get. I don't know if it just creates excitement and just kind of the non-football, like the casual football fan, just oh yeah, that'd be so cool. But like that is so freaking much. And obviously, like yeah, George Pickens has proven himself. Not that he's better than CD Lamb, but just we've seen, great receivers like we've talked about go for fourth and fifth round picks. So why are we talking about first and seconds
yeah,
nowadays?
and in their late 20s too. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's not nothing new to see a really good wide receiver get traded for a fourth round pick at the
yep,
highest. You know what I mean? And
yep,
in some situations with like CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, I would maybe extend that to a third round. But I'm not giving up
hmm
George Pickens and a second round pick for CeeDee Lamb. I'm not doing it because then
right,
CeeDee's the only guy on the team. Because we've already traded away Deontay Johnson. There's a reason why we kept George Pickens and how we felt
yep,
more confident with him because Deontay was supposed to be the number one, but George Pickens draws more attention. So he's
right.
obviously proven himself to be the number one. So that's just insane to me. Like I said, I'm just gonna walk out right now.
Yeah, I just more for comedic relief sake because yeah, that's so ridiculous and that wouldn't happen. But let's move on to some more news. Now we'll get into some really good news, some Patriots news,
Hmm.
and some more Drake May stuff. Because obviously, that's all that's been on my mind all summer and stuff, and the debate about him playing and Jacoby being the starter and stuff. Well, our offensive coordinator came out and said that Drake May has been really impressive throughout minicamp, and his progression has really like surprised them. But he also reiterated that like Jacoby Brissett is also having a good spring and summer, and he's the starter going into the season, and that they're in no rush. There's no timetable that they have to start May, which obviously that's exactly what I've been saying, right? Like, let's not rush Drake May. Let's not do anything crazy. Let's give him the time that he needs. Just because, like, I know that I'm not like an offensive coordinator. I'm not a head coach, and I'm not trying to say we're as smart as them. But it's just like when you look at it for so many examples that we've talked about, and Patrick Mahomes and Jordan Love and all these guys that have sat for a year or two or three and got to learn how the NFL game works. Not have to just jump right into the fire and deal with all these guys who are way faster, especially Drake May. He played in North Carolina. It's not like he played the Alabamas and the Georgias and stuff. He played at North Carolina. He didn't really have that much competition. So give him the time. And yeah, and even Jacoby Brissett has been praising May's performance, which I like even more because I think that shows that everybody kind of understands their role. Obviously, Drake May is the future right now, but and so it seems like Jacoby Brissett's kind of that good quarterback that's not going to be a dick and is not um, like selfish and all about himself. Like he's going to help Drake May, but he's also going to do his best to help the team.
Yeah, no, and I thought Jacoby Brissett was that way, like basically his whole career. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
He's always been. I mean, he's had his chances to become a starter. Most teams use him as that bridge quarterback, like I said Russell Wilson, I think, is turning into.
Yep.
I it's good to see that Drake May is progressing the way he is, but I still let him sit. Jacoby Brissett will handle.
All right, and we're back. Sorry about that. We had a little technical difficulties there. That's what,
Always
hey, we're used to it now.
always on my end too. I swear, it's always on my end.
No worries, no worries. Just for that, we're just going to continue on with the Patriots news, just to kind of like stick it to you for it. No,
Mm,
I just saw this one thing about Ramondre Stevenson. So about our boy, our number one running back, he said he himself that he was pretty close to an extension. He believed, which I absolutely love. Kind of talking about, it's kind of to the same point of what you're talking about with Hayward, where like the availability wasn't quite there. Like he was injured a lot last season. But when he's on the field, he is electric. He's like a mini version of Christian McCaffrey. I'm not saying he's Christian McCaffrey, but he's a guy that can run the ball and catch the ball. He could be a 3 down back, and this isn't even coming out of my mouth. I've seen so many reports that like say, hey, he's a top 10 running back in the league when healthy, and he's
yeah.
just that kind of dynamic. So I'm excited about that. Hopefully, he just keeps his health up, and hell yeah, I love hearing that as a Patriots fan.
Is he in? Is he at practice right now?
Yeah, yep, he's still at minicamp and everything. So
Okay. I mean, that's a good sign then. I mean, he seems like he's the type of guy to stay in New England. I don't think he's ever gonna like really leave. Seems like a New England type of guy. So
yeah, and I think that with the new kind of regime coming in, he's been one of the guys that has, I believe, been a little outspoken just about like how excited he is and like how he's liking like the new energy, the new vibes and stuff. So yeah, and then speaking of vibes, Matthew Judon, the number one vibe guy I'd say in the NFL, he returned to the field at minicamp. So he wasn't there for OTAs, but he was there for minicamp, and he talked about it. It was kind of interesting because he held in last year. I haven't seen that this much this year, but a lot of players last year were holding in, so they would go to the building or whatever, but they wouldn't participate in practice or anything with their
mm,
contracts. And he just said that he hated it. Like he hated doing that last year because he's still trying to get his contract, but he's just like, I'm going to stay out of the contract side of things, the agent side of things. I'm going to play ball. I want to do what is best for the team and best for me to be able to prepare myself for the team. And he even said like he called it trash, and he's like, I hate it. You're throwing tantrums when you hold out like that, which I thought was quite a bold statement, because we got a lot of top people around the NFL doing this sort of thing, obviously. But he also brought it a point that he felt that him holding out from like mini camp and stuff last year harmed him physically, and that might have led to a reason why he only played 4 games last season. I thought that was a lot of interesting points there. That's like I said, that's Matthew Judon for you. I don't know, like, what do you think about that?
No, yeah, I mean, I think that anytime players like sit out the way that Judon did, I mean, we can go back to Le'Veon Bell. You know,
Mhm.
Le'Veon Bell sitting like he did. I think that ruined his career. Personally,
Oh yeah,
because he
oh
never
yeah.
came back. He never came back the same. You lose a step. You know, you're not in it all the time like you normally are. Um, yeah, I definitely think you lose a step when you hold out like that, and then missing OTAs last year or minicamp for Matthew Judon. That's just. I mean, I could definitely see that going into why he got injured and only played 4 games last season. Not that it means anything. He wasn't chasing T.J. Watt's goal, but you know, we've
Oh
already had
man.
our bet about that. You and I
Yep,
learned the hard
yep.
way.
Well, that's the thing, though. I won't sit here and say he's T.J. Watt. I mean, T.J. Watt's been on another level, but I definitely think you could argue when healthy, he's a top 5 pass rusher, definitely a top 10 pass rusher in the league. Um, and for the Patriots, we definitely want him. I think long term, I think he's still got the juice. He just had a freak injury last season, so please, please, Patriots, get a deal done with him. But I also love like that he is just coming prepared. He's just going to let his agent handle his side of things. So I love it. But just yes, let's get that deal done, New England. And then let's just move on to a couple of more deals. Let's go over to quarterbacks. We'll start with the first one, which is Tua. And he came out and said that there's been a lot of progress on his contract and that he's not concerned with it at this point, but he just wants to get it done so that he can focus on football. I know we've already talked about him on a couple of these podcasts, just what is really going to be his deal because I know Feist has talked about how he saw it's going to be a lot of incentive based, and then we saw $50 million a year and things like that. So sounds like they're figuring something out. They got a bunch of high volume guys down there as well. What do you see coming from this Tua and the Dolphins contract?
Honestly, I don't. I think they'll get a deal done. I don't think the Dolphins are going to let Tua walk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't think Tua's going to get big money by any means. Definitely not what. Well, who was it? Jared Goff. Didn't Jared Goff get that big deal just
Jared
for his?
Goff. Yep. Hmm.
I don't think he's going to get a big deal like Jared Goff did, but I think he'll get some sort of a deal done. I don't think the Dolphins let him walk.
Yeah. Do you think he'll be less than 50 million? Do you think he'll get that 50 million a year type money?
I think it might be. I think it might be less. I think it'll
Yeah.
kind of be. I think it'll kind of be not like a. It won't be a long-term deal. I feel. I think it might be at most a 3-year deal. Maybe
Okay.
paying.
Yeah.
Maybe paying just a little less for a 3-year deal. I don't know. I mean, I don't think the Dolphins let him walk. I think Tua is a franchise quarterback. I just don't think he's the type of guy that can put you over that edge for a Super Bowl
Right.
run. Um,
Right.
but he is a franchise guy. He'll make your franchise look good. They'll play good. Just look at the Dolphins the last 2 years. They play good for the first 6 weeks of the season, and then
Yep.
they just stink all of a sudden for some reason. So,
Yep. When they go to Kansas City and when they could have, all they had to do was win, I think against Buffalo in the last game, or I think even they lost 2 of their last 3 or something like that, and they would have been playing in Miami instead of Kansas City. And as soon as everybody heard you're going to Kansas City with whatever it was, negative 30-degree wind chills, you're like, yep, this is gonna be the most boring playoff game. And I remember we had like a party or something, and we were hanging out. We had the game for the
nobody
game,
paid
and
attention
nobody
to
watched it because it was like, yep, this is just stupid. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that's actually really good. Like a 2, 3 year deal. where he's gonna, because I think he deserves some money. But I don't know. Like we'd have to sit there and go through the quarterbacks. I know you couldn't say he's top five. That's for damn sure. I don't think you could say he's top 10. And so, we can't just be giving him that kind of money. Now, on the other hand, is like Jared Goff. He's got, like we talked about, he could have very well possibly won the Super Bowl last year. You never like that. They were, a few plays away or just not blowing that lead in the second half of that NFC Championship. So,
I mean, he could have won the Super Bowl against the Patriots too. Jared
yep,
Goff, Jared Goff
exactly.
has been there. That's the
Hmm.
difference. Is Jared Goff has been there, and you
Yeah,
know that Jared Goff is, he is a franchise guy. He's a leader in the locker room. He plays the way that he plays. Nobody else. He steps everybody else's game up, whereas
yeah.
Tua, I feel like the only reason why his game has stepped up is because of Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, the people around him, people are stepping him up. He's not, or elevating him. He's not
Yeah,
elevating others quite
yeah.
there.
I think that's the
Well,
difference.
that's a great point. That's a great point. I'll move on to a guy who I'll at least say I think has elevated others and surprised everybody, especially last year. And that's Jordan Love. And it's kind of weird because it's like he already is looking for a new long-term deal. Well, yeah, because he sat for 3 years under Aaron Rodgers. So I think he did get like a small extension a year ago, but now obviously he's proven himself and he
Yeah.
had a fantastic season. And so he's saying that he's hopeful for a new long term deal before training camp. He's saying, like, that's what I've heard will happen. So I know Jenna, my girlfriend, she definitely would love that.
Beyonce.
She lo she lo You're right. Excuse me. Gosh dang it. Still getting used to that. There we go. We'll definitely have to edit that out before she sees that. So my fiance loves I love her and she loves love. Okay. And
Yeah.
yeah, she definitely want that. And yeah, I think that all Packers fans definitely want a long-term deal for Jordan Love.
It's so funny every time you do it.
I feel
I'll
like I've
cut
been doing good, but
I'll cut you
yeah,
some
slipping
slack. I'll
in
cut
there.
you some slack. It's pretty new. It's pretty new. Congratulations
Hmm.
to you, by the
Th-
way.
Thank you, thank
Um,
you.
but yeah, no. I definitely think Jordan Love has proved his deal. I think he's proved that he can be that guy in this league, especially with Green Bay having a team last year that was the youngest team in the NFL and still taking them to the heights that they got to. You know what I
They were
mean? Which
close
I
to
think
beating the Niners too. Like
it
it was a
surprised
close
everybody.
game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it surprised everybody. And
Beat the
I mean,
Cowboys, freaking wipe the dog shit out of the Cowboys. Gotta bring that up every time we can. We
did
definitely
Des
watched
catch
that
it?
game. Oh
um,
man.
but no, I think if the Green Bay Packers can keep this young core together, they're only gonna get better. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah. Hmm.
Sign Jordan Love to his deal. You've seen the heights they can get to at this, young of an age in the
Yep.
NFL. Keep them together and see how far they can go. At least give 5 years for this young core to grow and get experience, and I think that they'll be a Super Bowl team in the near future.
Yeah. I'd have to agree. I mean, they've proven themselves. I know, like I said, they lost to the NFC champions and by a very thin margin. And if it wasn't for like, yeah, what Jordan Love just made that crazy throw. It was only second down or something, and I think that he threw a pick, and they could have possibly, made it down the field. Got a field goal to be able to send it to overtime or something like that, or just at least have a few more chances. And obviously, that's a young quarterback kind of rookie mistake. And I mean, other than that, he just had a phenomenal season, So he's only going to get better. I think he's proven himself, like we said. So
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think Jordan Love's a great quarterback. Moving on to, I don't even want to say their names. I hate.
The
I,
Cleveland Browns. I'll do it
I
for
hate.
you. There you go. I can see that coming up through your throat, so I'll just make sure that doesn't happen on camera.
just every team in the AFC North, they can.
Rivalry
But
runs
no.
deep, that's for sure.
The Cleveland Browns extended head coach Kevin Stefanski and GM Andrew Berry to multi-year extensions. I hate this as a Steelers fan because Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry are both very good at what they do.
Yeah.
I think Kevin Stefanski has really coached that team into what they are now, and in where you went out and got Deshaun Watson for that big contract deal, but you're still and even though he was hurt last season, you still get close to making the playoffs. Or did they make the playoffs? The Cleveland Browns? I think they were the only team that no, the Bengals didn't make the playoffs. The Browns did.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I hate this as a Steelers fan, but I'm sure this is definitely a good move for the Browns.
Well, I'd have to agree. I mean, he was the coach of the year last year, and that was his second time winning the award. And I think likewise because, like you said, he's done what with he. I think the Browns have been like a pure coaching job because wasn't Brissett the quarterback for the Browns last season?
Yes.
Yeah, because Deshaun Watson got injured and stuff. So yeah, it's like
Well, and then Joe
and
Flacco.
oh, that's right. And Joe, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I forgot about Joey Footsteps,
Brissett
man.
Brissett did play for the Browns, I think, the year before that. But yeah, Joe
Okay.
Flacco was their backup last year.
That's right. That's right. That's right. But anyway, either way, like that's a coaching job where they brought like I said, this $250 million guaranteed whatever freaking BS contract they gave to Sean Watson. You don't have that guy, and hell, maybe they were better, but we won't get into that. The point I'm trying to make is that he did great. That he did great with low expectations. And I don't know, like I've seen a lot of Browns fans that have been like shitting on him in recent years, which I think kind of surprised me. Like even as a like you said, as a Steelers fan, you can see like how good that those two guys, both him and Andrew Perry, are at their jobs. So it's like when I hear the news from or like the shit talk from Browns fans, it's like, what are you doing, dude? Like shut the hell up. You wouldn't be where you are without him.
Browns fans just love to stay at the bottom. I feel like that's just where they love to be. That's where they feel
Let's just
comfortable.
blow this shit up. This is
First
not.
you
This
sign,
isn't right. This isn't what we're used to.
first you signed Deshaun Watson to 200. What? How much was it? Wasn't it like
I
a
think it was 250 guaranteed,
yeah,
5 years,
250 yeah, $250 million contract after he didn't
completely
play for two
guaranteed.
seasons. After
Hmm
he didn't play for two seasons, like what kind of move is that? And then, and I don't. Deshaun Watson's not the same Deshaun Watson he was when he
Oh
played for Houston.
no.
Not
Mm-mm.
even close. I was a little worried when they signed him, but
Not
yeah,
too
I
worried
just
anymore.
not too worried anymore. The Browns just love to stay at the bottom. Their fans love to stay at the bottom. That's how I feel.
Hey, I'll say this: if Deshaun Watson was their quarterback last season, like the whole season, I'll say it. I don't think that Kevin Stefanski does win Coach of the Year because they probably don't win near as many games and they don't put out as good of performances. So
Joe Flacco did play out of his damn mind last year.
that was awesome. I remember saying I wanted him as the bridge quarterback for the Patriots. Like
Yeah,
just
yeah.
seeing what he and then I think can't remember if he's a backup somewhere now. If he did, oh, in the Colt, he got signed by the Colts. That's right. So he's going to
That's
be a
right.
backup for them. But it's like man, that guy played out of his mind, and he wasn't afraid of anything. So it was pretty cool to see him like do that. I know you probably didn't like it, but I loved it. I was going for the Browns. I think when the playoffs started, I was like, all right, I'm rooting for the Browns. I'm rooting for them the whole way, and then they lose. I think first playoff game to the Texans, get their ass kicked, but
They did because Joey Footsteps decided to throw four picks. He decided
yeah.
to have his worst game of the season in the playoffs.
Well, that's the thing. Like he's gonna air it out, and he's not afraid. And it's either gonna be four touchdown game or a four pick game. And I guess it was just a four pick game, and the most important one.
Yeah, no, he definitely did that with the Ravens too. So,
Yeah.
moving on here to our last little bit, or no, yeah, we still got a little bit more. Still got a little bit
Yeah.
more news here.
The NFL, man, it's
Um,
crazy. It just keeps coming up with more news
starting to
headlines.
starting to amp up quite a bit.
Yep.
Um, Darren Waller, who should have retired as a rapper, decided to retire. Decided to retire as a football player at the age of 31. He revealed that he had a medical emergency during last season where he had difficulty breathing, was shaking uncontrollably, and slipping in and out of consciousness. So
Jeez.
it might be pretty valid for him to retire when he did. I mean, I know a few players that I love, like Luke Kuechly retired early.
Hmm.
He was worried about CTE and all in his head and everything. There was a middle linebacker, I can't remember his name right now, but he played for the 49ers. That I
Was it
really loved.
Willis? Patrick Willis? Did he retire early or
No, it
someone
was a
else?
guy that was replacing Patrick Willis before they got
Warner.
Warner.
Okay.
He was kind of in the middle there, and he only played for a couple seasons, but he was a really damn good middle linebacker. Um, yeah, he also retired pretty early too. So and at the age of 31, maybe it is time to hang up the cleats, but I still think Darren Waller had some juice left in him until reading what he was experiencing last season.
Yeah, I definitely, that was the first time I had learned about it was this last week. I know obviously I haven't been too, like, it's not like I follow Darren Waller or the Giants or anything super close, but yeah, I had no idea. And I know that, when he was with the Raiders, man, I mean, I think he was like the bona fide, like, I would say number three tight end. I remember it being, obviously Kelsey's number one, then Mark Andrews is number two, and then it was Darren Waller, and he was doing some exciting things. And I know that kind of fell off after he left the Raiders, but man, just hope the best for him. Hope he's okay with all the medical stuff, and know we're making jokes. Obviously, don't like do care about his health. Hopefully, everything's okay. But yeah, but please stay off the mic, bro. Please, there's so many other things you can do. But yeah, wish the best for him in retirement. He was a great player. Let's move on to some more news. Let's update you on the Rashee Rice story. I know we've been kind of following this throughout the whole time, so nothing crazy has happened this time. But it's just he's back in Kansas City, back on the field, like we were saying, where you probably need to be at this point. And he just said, like, he vowed to be more mature after all of these off the field issues and to make sure that they're not a distraction going forward, which I think that's exactly what all three of us have pretty much been saying this whole time. Like, the amount of stuff that happened in such a short time frame, it's like, dude, you gotta, like, what are you doing, right? So, like I said earlier, I know it's a little different case, but with Russell Wilson, and talking about things like talk is great, but let's see it. And I hope that it is true, because I think he'll, even with the wide receivers they signed, I still think he's going to be able to be a productive guy. We'll see on the suspensions and everything and how that affects things, because I'm assuming he's still going to get suspensions. But yeah, any thoughts on that?
No, I mean the kid just needs to grow up a little bit. I feel like
Right?
he came into a lot of money really fast and acted really stupid, which I feel like
Yep.
anybody in their early 20s is going to do. Um,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, hopefully this is true and he actually matures because Rasheed Rice is a really good player. He emerged as one of the only wide receivers on the Kansas City Chiefs besides Travis Kelsey to actually be able to catch the ball.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
so hopefully he grows and actually matures and figures his stuff out.
Well, let's move on to my fiance's former favorite quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. This is just kind of a little funny story I kind of wanted to bring up, finish her off here, because I don't know if you heard much about it. It was just a report that I saw today that he missed the first day of mandatory minicamp. And what I just didn't get, maybe you can shed some light on it. I don't know, but so what it said was that he was in constant communication, like coach, team, ownership, everybody knew that he would miss this day, and it wasn't a big deal. But then they said it was an unexcused absence. So I kept reading through the article. I was like, did I miss like excused? Right? The language was like they knew he was going to be out, but I don't know. Is there like certain list like there's a list of things that you can do to miss minicamp. Like, I don't know, like you're having a baby or getting married or family emergency or something like that. In his reason just wasn't on that list, or I don't know. Do you have any idea?
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't. I mean, obviously, certain events happen, like you're listing off, and that
Yeah.
that stuff will leave you excused. And if he's talked to his coach and everybody and the whole team knows about it, I don't understand why it would be an unexcused absence. It
Yeah.
just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Especially
It
when the
doesn't
whole
make
team
sense.
knows about it. It's like calling in to work with your boss. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? If you don't call in, it's a no call no show. You have risk of losing your job. If
Right.
uh, if you call in, boss says okay, you're fine for the day. You know what I mean? Like there's those certain list of excuses that you can give that obviously nobody's going to say no to. It just doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't make sense to me at all.
Yeah, and I wondered, was it is it just a letter of the law kind of thing? Because, like, do they have to fine you for unexcused absences to try to, make sure that people show up? I know that's kind of a big deal. That's why holding out a mini camp is an even bigger deal because you get those fines. But will the Jets just somehow pay him that money back or not charge him or something like that? You know what I mean? It's totally sounded like they uh, yeah, didn't care,
Was
knew
it
he wasn't going to be there, and it wasn't going to affect the team in too big of a way.
was it said what his reason was to why he wasn't at
No,
practice?
no. The funny thing about that was everybody related it to RFK Jr. or whatever wanting him to be his vice president, Aaron Rodgers,
Oh,
and so
really?
everybody, yeah, everybody's like, it's probably something for this, and then the article went into like actually, there's nothing related to any campaign tour or I don't know if a certain deadline has passed. I don't know too much about that world, obviously, but it was like the article was proving that it wasn't that, but I guess that was kind of like the narrative or the fans were saying that.
Huh.
So interesting, interesting, as the NFL always is. But thank you guys for joining us for this portion. We're going to take a quick break and get into the NBA on the other side. All right, and we are back. Wait a minute. That's a different blonde hair, blue eye friend that I got. That's Sean, baby. How you doing, bud?
Hello, I'm good. I'm glad to be back. Thanks for having me once again for a
Of
little
course.
NBA talk.
Hell yeah, we got plenty of it. Obviously, we have the finals still going on, but before
Best
we get
time of the
into
year.
that, let's get into the news. I know we've been kind of following it along this season with Jonte Porter, man, and I know we already kind of knew some of this stuff, but now some more stuff kind of came out that he actually had so he had a gambling debt, which makes sense for why like he was betting on himself and stuff, but just like he was being encouraged, I guess, by the people he was in debt to, like bet on yourself, bet on the under for shit like 1.5 threes and under 4 points or something like that is what I heard, and I'm like.
Yep.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we all assumed that like when you're betting on yourself, he was probably trying to mess with it a
Betting
little
under.
bit, but hearing that that's actually for sure what was happening, that's I guess it kind of makes sense why they banned him, but that's crazy.
Right.
It's just
And
funny to hear more and more come out about that.
seriously, there was like a video. I don't know if you saw it, but like where it looked like he really tried to just like brick this three so bad,
Oh,
and
really?
he like banked it in, and
Oh,
it like yeah, and it cuts to his face, and he's like visibly like pissed off about it. He's like, "Fuck," like
oh
or
no,
whatever. And I
that's
know
funny.
I can't remember if we talked about it, but there was already like one report where like he checked himself out of a game, like
Oh,
like, oh, I don't feel good or something like that. And
yeah.
so I know there's a lot of stuff that happens in the NBA, and like like we talked about like Miles Bridges and stuff. Like, I don't want to get too crazy into anything, but just like there's some serious stuff that happens, and then you throw in like the gambling
Hmm.
punishments versus those punishments, and I totally get that, but at the same time, like you can't. I think you really cannot have gambling in sports by the athletes because that's
Yeah.
just going to take everything away from the game. There's so much going on.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, that's like gonna be a problem, but it is weird to see how they handle different things. And also, I mean, every single advertisement it feels like in this finals and in the playoffs in general,
Hmm.
it's all
Hmm.
about gambling. So they're pushing this gambling like crazy, and then also, having the harshest punishments for the players when it comes to that. I get it, but also, I mean, there's a lot of other things that they got to take a little bit more seriously too, maybe.
Yeah, and I know I'm not the person to like try to like figure out how to get this gambling thing, like under control, because it's
Yeah.
obviously, like it's been a like booming industry, I guess, especially recently, and it's going across all states. I know you're in Florida. I'm not sure your rules, but I'm back here in Utah, and it definitely
Hmm.
won't ever be legal here. So at least we don't have to worry
Yeah.
about that. But yeah, it's just crazy, and I don't know how you regulate that, but I feel bad for. I feel not. I don't feel bad for Jonte Porter, but like I just feel. I just feel bad that there's someone that stupid,
Yeah.
like to get yourself in that. I mean, gambling is a real thing. Like it's a real addiction and stuff, and people get in deep on it. But I
Oh,
just I
yeah.
don't know. Everybody has their addictions, but it's just a hard one for me to like kind of wrap my head around. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
For, especially when it's all these guys that are already making millions of
Millions
dollars.
of dollars. Yep.
I find it a little bit hard to wrap my head around as well, amongst especially those people. I understand maybe the like other side of the spectrum where they're like,
Hmm.
oh, maybe I'll win this lottery of millions of dollars
Changed
when
my
they have
life.
nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes more sense to get addicted in a bad way, but
Hmm.
these
It's
guys,
I guess it's powerful, right?
it's definitely powerful. Yeah.
Well, let's move on to some good news. Some really, really good news. The Jazz announced a rebrand for their uniform, Sean. I know we've both definitely already been on this. Yep, and I had to wear the purple today because
Yeah,
purple's
I'm in some
back.
purple. I'm in some purple.
Yes, sir. I'll just start with your thoughts, and I'll get into my thoughts. So we got, I think, the four new jerseys, and two of
Yeah.
them. Two of them won't be debuted until next season, or not this upcoming season, but the season after that. And
Right.
then two of them are gonna. I can't remember. Do you remember what the two that will be this season are?
I honestly can't remember off the top of my
Oh,
head, but
gosh. Anyways, we,
honestly,
we
it
remember
was,
the four new jerseys,
yeah.
so
There's
let's
four
just
new
go through
jerseys
those.
total, and two of them are coming out this year apparently, and then or next season, and then the season after that are the other two. But they all look better than what the last rebrand was in
Yes.
2022. Oh man, I mean, they got some heat for that. And I also noticed at the end of last season, they stopped even scheduling games that they had been scheduled for yellow jerseys, and they just
Hmm.
changed them over. Like they got so much flack for those construction uniforms, and it was totally deserved. Those were so boring, coming off of all of these really cool designs that they had done. The gradient and dark mode,
Hmm. Hmm.
awesome. And then they did a purple set that was way cool. And then they
Oh yeah.
rebrand to black, white, and yellow. It was just
Why?
like, and it was so
Why?
minimalistic and boring and
Hmm.
had nothing to do with Utah, really. It's like, it made no sense. And I mean, I'm glad that they did it quickly because it was bad to start with, and they did much better this time, in my opinion. I think it looks
Much.
much
Yeah.
better.
Much, much better. I think one of them is staying kind of the same, that purple mountain jersey that we had
Mhm.
last season.
I like that one,
Yeah, and
but
I like that one. I'm more of a fan of like the original mountain jersey, like the '90s or
yeah,
whatever. I still
Yeah.
think those look a little bit better, but I don't know because like the other one. So let me look here. It's the City Edition. That is like the new one. So that's I feel like that one's even closer to the '90s mountains, where it's got
Hmm.
the white Utah letters and more kind of like natural matter mountains, where our new ones are like it's kind of that gradient with the lines and stuff. I think I like those ones better than the ones we even had last season. But I'll say, I think my favorite is definitely those white ones. I think they did a really good job with the. I think they just look clean as hell.
Yeah, they definitely did a great job this time and brought back what people liked.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, like they leaned into what people were saying because everyone was like, "Why take away all this good stuff and replace it?" When it was fine. And yeah, and another thing I noticed is that like even with these ones that we like, so quickly fan-made jerseys look just as good
Mm-hmm.
or better. And I feel like
Yep.
you got more of an opinion on this than me, so I'll let you take it off.
Oh
But
yeah,
like,
yeah, the black one that they
uh-huh.
released because
Yeah.
it's still actually so close to looking good. Like when I was looking at more of the details and stuff, like they got the like lines down the side, the kind of fading purple white that just kind of mixes in so well. The black's
Mhm.
a good color, but that jazz note is like, yeah, so we got this jazz note, but you just like
Mhm.
put mountains right behind it, and it doesn't like clash well at all, I don't think. And so, like,
Yeah.
my thing was like, don't put the note there. I get you want to have the note on some of the jerseys for sure, but like, even if they lowered it, so like the mountains were on top of it or something more, or I think the one thing I'll say about like all of the jerseys is none of them say jazz. So like
Yeah.
they all say Utah or it's the note. So that was
Mhm.
kind of my thing. That like I'll say the black one's my least favorite because it clashes so like
Yeah.
harshly with the mountains. I think, and like
Uh-huh.
you said that you were the one that said that because I think I can't remember if you sent it to me. I sent it to you, but like it was a jazz fan that made the like remake, and it
Mhm.
was I can't remember if it said Utah or Jazz, but I was like, yep, that already looks like better. Like that's what we should have had.
It didn't have like a jumble of like everything all stacked up. But I didn't even like super notice it. I was pretty happy about the rebrand. Saw all the
Yeah.
all the good stuff on it, and then you said that I was like, oh, he's not wrong. It's a little bit intense on that one. And they could have even done something like this, like make it small, not
Hmm.
like consuming, or like you said, move it down. I don't know, but
Yeah, something.
all
And
in
it's
all in all, it is a big like it's much better than
yes,
what we had before. But yeah, they still could have probably done a
done a
little
little
better.
bit better, I think for sure. And that's why it's
Yeah.
like it's so funny because there's got to be so many people whose jobs, like or careers, their lives have revolved around doing like these kinds of things. And
Hmm.
obviously, they didn't like fuck up to an extent as bad as they did. Because that was the one thing I remember. The one thing, like, so I remember seeing this post like years and years ago about how the Jazz have had colors, like the biggest like color, um, what do you call it, palette, I guess,
Yeah.
of so many different. Like we've had green, we've had red, we've had yellow, we've had purple, blue, black, and so I remember Ryan Smith saying like, let's get back to an identity, and like let's take all that away because we've had so many different colors and schemes and stuff. But then he just chose like the fucking worst possible identity. Let's
Yeah.
just go plain ass like logo, like even that was the thing, even the colors, but like some of the jerseys, like I mean, you just had Utah just straight across
Yeah.
in the most plain like font you could have. Like there was no design to the jersey, so I don't even understand why that. Like it took that. Well, how long has it been? 2, 3 years or something?
Yeah. It's
It
been a
hasn't been
while.
long, but like not super long, but it was a couple 2, 3 seasons where we had to deal with that. It's like we definitely didn't have to go through that shitty, stupid couple of years with those terrible jerseys.
Yeah. And it never like him saying like get back to like an identity and then do the only thing that had like zero identity to it. It was like
To Utah,
as
yep.
minimal as possible. Nothing that like related to Utah specifically. Not really colors that we had had before, none of it
Yep.
made sense. And I am just glad that we are past that. That was
past
a
it,
weird.
yeah.
That was a weird time. It was the time that the Jazz had no clue what they were doing as a team as well. So hopefully with this
You
rebrand,
could just forget about all of it.
they just come back to form. First
Yep.
round exit would be nice. Just kidding. That's
There you go.
the last thing we need right now. But
Well, let's talk about something that I don't know may happen, but may kind of, I guess, give us a chance to go even further about this. I know it's just very hypothetical. There was no reports. There's no Woj reports coming out that this will happen, but it was just something that actually Fice sent me, and then I think I sent it to you. So I'll just lay it out here, and then you can get into your thoughts on it. So the Jazz received Zion Williamson, Larry Nance Jr., and a 2029 pick swap to the Jazz for Walker Kessler, John Collins, Bryce Sensabaugh, the 28 and 32 picks this year, and then 2 more future first-round picks. So that's quite a haul, but we're keeping some key guys. I think that's an important part. Obviously, Lowry's not a part of that. Our all-star. You got Sexton and everything, and still got Clarkson. What do you think? Do you make that trade? Is that a fair trade? Would you adjust anything?
I feel like my first reaction was that I was worried about what we do get out of it because Zion has been kind of injury prone, hit or miss. But the thing is that when he does play, he's great.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, he's a great player. Larry Nance Jr. has been a proven role player for years as well. So I mean, that's something to note, honestly. And it doesn't feel like we give up that much. Walker Kessler's kind of plateaued, at least in the last year. So it's hard to say where he really goes anyways. So, and then John Collins is probably the big piece of that, plus the first round picks that you're I don't know. But John Collins, I don't know if he ever worked great for the Jazz. He's a solid player and he got his numbers and he wasn't horrible, but there was not a lot of great chemistry going on there necessarily. So I could see it making sense, but part of me is part of me doesn't like it as well. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it still, but
I definitely get that. I know when I was I read into, I think there was an article about it attached to it or something, and I think that Zion and Lowry would clash pretty well, just because Zion is so he's a driver, he gets to the hoop, he's a big body guy. Lowry, even though he's taller, he's more finesse and he can shoot and everything. And I think that even though they're both kind of bigger forwards, they're different kind of big forwards, and I like that.
Yeah, that's
and then
true.
you keep the guards. That's the thing too. So we still have our good guards. I think Sexton, like I told you, I remember we've talked about this many times where I thought Sexton was the big piece we got from the Donovan trade instead of Lowry. Couldn't have been more wrong about that, but that's what I
initially at least. That was
right. And he definitely came on towards the later part of the season. He was playing pretty well. And when
I feel like most of this past season he was pretty good. That first season was where it was pretty rocky for sure. But
that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah. But he was one of the few players that we were actually still or at least starters that we were playing towards the end of that season. When we were just kind of tanking or whatever. But I like it, and you keep Clarkson on there, which obviously he's been a big Utah guy forever now, and I like it. So I think it could work. I haven't even mentioned Keontae George. That's probably the biggest part of that, and
he doesn't go anywhere.
He has so much room to grow, and he has so much potential already that could be a pretty dynamic big three.
Give him Zion to lob to and stuff like that. Yeah.
And hey, what I'm saying is the lack of nightlife, I guess, in Utah that we always get talked about, and all these mountains and stuff we got. Maybe Zion doesn't go out as much, or just goes into the mountain, gets a little healthier, loses a little weight, and maybe you don't have to worry about the injury, because I know New Orleans, they got a lot of good food down there, so maybe it'll help to get him out of that environment.
Get him here, get him to somewhere that's got a little bit less seasoning,
Oh yeah, the food you're talking about.
Exactly. That's right. But
Oh
I
my
mean, hey,
gosh.
it's good to see. I've been seeing a lot of like videos recently of Laurie. He seems to love it here.
Mhm.
So having him already love it here, we've got time to figure out what's gonna fit next to him. Hopefully, so and
Yeah.
hey, maybe Zion, maybe he's that guy. We'll see if there's any like further info about that. I feel like maybe it's totally hypothetical, or maybe it's coming from
Probably.
somewhere. I don't really know. It's kind of early in the off season to know
Yeah.
stuff. A lot of stuff gets tossed around early on, right? And then some stuff actually has some truth to it. So I'd be
Definitely.
interested to. The Jazz specifically at the end of the season said that they want to find like a good player now, an all star.
Yeah, didn't they want to say they were going big game hunting? Isn't that
Yeah,
what the like phrase was or something? That's what they want to do.
yeah, and that's what Ainge is saying, and he's the man that makes the calls on that. So having
Which
him say
I
something like that, who's available out of the, I mean, what he considers big game, I guess.
right. I mean,
Zion's
there's
one of
other
them.
people like we were talking about like with the Hawks all season, like both kind of Trey Young and Dejounte Murray were being talked about. I wanted
All
Dejounte Murray.
season.
I thought he'd been good, and
Yeah,
Zion. There's
there's a
probably a lot
handful
of
out there.
names out there. But yeah, I mean, is that you think we should go for that kind of route, or do we stick it out and we stick with these 3 first round picks and hope that a couple of them hit? I mean, that's kind of what we had last season, and I'm not like wanting to talk any like shit on them, but like because obviously Keontae was good
Keontae's
and
good for where we
Taylor
got him.
Hendricks and Bryce Sensabaugh, they had a lot of playing time and garbage time kind of part of the season, and they
Hmm.
had some moments. I remember, I think I went to the one game I made it to last season. Bryce Sensabaugh actually was popping off. I
Oh
remember,
yeah, no,
but
I do remember that because I texted you.
yeah,
He's about to drop 30. He slowed
yeah,
down. He slowed
yeah.
down,
I think
but
he got like 22 or something like that, which is popular. It's still pretty good, but yeah, I don't know that I would call any of those guys like for sure bona fide part of our future yet. Obviously, Keontae's
yeah.
closest,
I
but
think
you know what I
Keontae
mean.
probably is, honestly,
You
from what
do,
like the at least like the talk going around. It sounds like Keontae is relatively untouchable. I mean, unless something really knocks at the door, I'm sure.
crazy. Was he
Right?
the ninth pick? Was it the 9
No,
last year?
that was Hendricks, and
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Hendricks
yeah.
could be good still. I do want to see him have another year before we like were to trade him away, which just because I think that he is exactly what you want in a player, like a defensive minded guy, can shoot threes. But this season, like he was hardly worth keeping in for the most part. So give him some
Yeah.
time, maybe. I'm interested in him, but
So as far as next season with these three, well, I think it's technically 2 first round picks, and then we got like the first or second pick of the second
some
round.
I think yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
What do you like just staying with those picks? Do you like trying to get more, 3 more guys like that, or
I don't love it. I don't think
yeah,
you're gonna get anyone. I mean, I think we got lucky, honestly, with Keontae.
yeah,
I mean, when he was
just
the
like we
later
did
pick.
with Donovan, just like we did with Rudy.
That's
You know
right.
what I mean? Like
But
the
okay, so
Hayward back in the days.
why do we keep on getting lucky? Gosh, maybe we
I
keep
know.
okay. But the thing is, we're not getting the right guy. We're not getting like Chet Holmgrens or Victor Wembanyama's. But we're
Yeah,
getting solid guys that leave once they start getting good.
yeah. Yes,
I really,
it's hard. I think
I'm
I've
tossed
been
up.
the impatient guy where I've like wanted to go get like let's go big game hunt. Like we got those 1st round picks.
Got a lot of
Like let's
picks.
go get proven guys. That's what I like. The draft is just so hard because that's the problem. Is like unless you're that like top 3, top 5 pick, then it is pretty much wild card from there on out. Like
Yeah.
you could be Donovan Mitchell, or I don't know. But that's the thing. Even when the Jazz have had top 5 picks, like in most recent memory, I think of
Exo, right?
Ennis Cantor, and
Ennis
then
Cantor.
and then
Yeah.
Dante Exum. Yeah, and they didn't turn out to be anything near what Donovan and Rudy did, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, what
Exum
do you
gets a
do?
few minutes on the
He is,
on
yeah.
Dallas right
He's
now.
playing in the finals. Good for
Yeah.
him because he came back out of nowhere. Like I thought he was out
I've
of
been
the
happy
NBA
for
for
him.
a season or
I think
two,
he
right?
was. I think he
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
So that's awesome
And
for
he's had
him,
a lot of
especially get
injuries.
minutes in the finals. Like
Yeah.
that means you're legit. Like that's when the lineups get a lot smaller. So the fact that Exum is
Hmm.
getting minutes, that means something. So yeah, happy for
Yeah.
him.
I heard them talking about Exum specifically on the broadcast, I think, in game 2, and they were just like, he brings like a burst of speed, he brings just activity, and he's always been good. Like, he is a transition guy, he moves, but then also he's got his downsides, he's a little out of control, and I noticed that his first possession in the last game, when they had just talked about that, turned it over because he was moving so quickly, and like, he was ahead of everyone, he was trying to find the pass, and just lost the ball, and I was like, I remember that, but he's still. It's still cool to see him be in a position where he's, getting legit minutes in the finals. That's cool.
Hell yeah, it's awesome to see. Now, talking about the finals, like, we got to get into that, but let's finish out with our last couple of news things here.
Fair enough.
Excuse me. So next one was LeBron. So, we're missing Feist this week, unfortunately, and it wouldn't be a podcast without talking about LeBron, so we got to give that to him. But this was kind of actually interesting because he talked about Kyrie in a JJ. It was that podcast. What was that podcast called? With JJ Redick and LeBron. It's a fucking awesome podcast. It's
an awesome podcast. I've been checking it out.
Forgetting the name, yeah, but they're two great minds. It's awesome to see. But he called Kyrie a wizard and the most gifted NBA player that we've ever seen. And I was like, that's not an unfair statement. Like, if you're talking about just obviously prime Kyrie and just what he's able to do with a basketball in his hands, like in every different facet of the game. Like, obviously we know Curry's the best shooter and whatever, and and he's got great handles, but Kyrie just finishing. I remember talking to you about his freaking. He had a left-handed floater over Jokic to win a game in the regular season, and it was like free throw line extended or something. Like, it was so far, and like, who else hits that shot but Kyrie? So I think that's totally cool about LeBron to say that. He also said that he was very mad that Kyrie's not his running mate anymore. Now, I've heard a little bit of shit talk about that, like, oh, it's your fault, LeBron, which I never understood. I think there's just so many LeBron haters, but yeah, that's kind of like some stuff I heard from that podcast. You hear anything different, or what do you kind of think about that?
No, I first of all, I mean, for Kyrie going into the finals, hearing, the GOAT of basketball say that about you, it's got to be a little bit of a boost of confidence, right? So maybe LeBron's trying to hype him up a little bit.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's got like a special skill set that nobody else really has. He's like the best finisher, probably the best handles in the league. He finds good passes and he can shoot. I mean, he's well-rounded, right? And he has his mid-range game. I mean, his step backs. He is putting people on clinics. I mean, it's what he loves to do. It's his total game, and he can find just about any shot that's out there. Like, he's one of the best bucket getters, and he's so good in like he like raises his bar in the playoffs. And anytime you've got a playoff riser, that's the guy you want on your team.
That's who you want. Yeah, 100%. That's why I think, because Kyrie was injured that first finals run with LeBron when he came back, and I think they had one.
I think Kevin Love got injured in that.
LeBron had literally nobody that series.
Yeah.
But then they won it with Kyrie, and then I think that they might have lost the year after. I think Kyrie was still there, but that was when KD was there, and like that team was obviously unfair.
I think that's right. Yeah, that was.
Then he went to Boston, I think, the year after that, or something like that. But those two together, that finals run, it's already one of those things that I feel like I'll be talking to my grandkids about, is that 2016 finals, because like, I know we've already mentioned it on this podcast, but it really was. There's that game
in our lifetime.
Both dropped 40 in the same game, and then obviously LeBron makes the block, Kyrie makes the shot. Like,
they both scored 40. I'm pretty sure multiple times in that series. I mean, they were at the top of their game. They were like, I mean, watching. I actually just recently saw like a shout back to that, like on Instagram, where they just posted like some of the highlights from that series, and it was just like he's still like super athletic now as a almost 40-year-old, but man, that guy could get up and make some crazy blocks. I mean, he had so many chase down blocks in that series, and obviously the most iconic one against Iguodala in the last couple minutes. dude, they had it all. And, like, obviously LeBron's been that guy. Like, he's always had the entire game. But, yeah, what he's saying is that, like, he was able to win that series where it seemed like LeBron was insane because Kyrie was playing at
Also
his level,
insane.
basically. Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
and that's the funny thing we always talk about with these players, and like, you know, with always the Jordan versus Braun debate. Oh, Braun's never won it without, and that's the same thing. Jordan's never won it without. Kyrie never won it. Curry never won it without Hall of Famers on their team. Like, that's
how
what
it works.
You need to win the finals. Like,
it turns out
you know,
almost every team has one of those guys, or most teams have one or
it's
two.
a team game, yeah. Like, look at Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. You know
exactly.
what I mean? Like, and Luka and Kyrie. Like, there's a reason that those teams make it to the finals, and there's a reason when LeBron doesn't have those guys, they don't
can't do it.
tend to win. Yeah.
It's not a one-person game, and
Exactly.
we're seeing it now. We'll talk more about it, but yeah, Boston is like a team, you know. They do have like two guys, but their team plays.
Team.
Yeah.
Like you said. All right. Well, I know we're itching to get to it. Let's talk about one more thing. Let's talk about some coaching news before we do get to it. And obviously it's got to be the Lakers, because that's even now it's still dominating ESPN headlines and stuff. It's the Lakers head coaching position, and like we talked about, our boy JJ Redick was I read at one point the front runner, and then all of a sudden it turns into Dan Hurley, and he's a head coach obviously for the UConn Huskies, the back-to-back national champions for college basketball. And they've had a freaking dominant run. We talked about them on some earlier podcasts. So definitely a guy that is going to be highly coveted. And they went all out for him. They offered him a 6-year, $70 million contract to be the head coach for LA, which is kind of wild because a lot of times people say like the college game versus the professional game way different, because there's just all kinds of different. I mean, the game's obviously different, but then there's like head coaches in college are so much into recruiting and stuff like that. Like, that's a big part of their job, which obviously in the NBA, like, yeah, there's free agency and stuff, but it's not quite like recruiting, the amount of time you spend on it. So, but he actually turned it down. Dan Hurley said, nope, I'm going to go back to UConn, which I think best for both parties involved. I think it might not have made sense for the Lakers, but obviously he's a great coach. And man, Dan, I know you got to be making some good money down there in UConn, and you got a historical run going on right now, so I wouldn't want to leave that if I were him, even if it is the LA Lakers job. But it sounded like he was interested.
Yeah, I mean, right, that's good money, and I feel like the Lakers are looking for some sort of coaching identity, so them going out on a limb like that with a 6-year, you know, I feel like that's something they're looking for. They want some longevity in their coaching role, but also that seems, I don't know, it seemed kind of out of nowhere. I hadn't heard much about it, and then you kind of told me more about it in general, and yeah, I mean, I don't blame either of them for what they were trying to do. I feel like they both, like Dan Hurley obviously has been super successful, so they're like, hey, let's get that guy. But also he wants to continue that success where he was at, probably. So can't blame him for turning it down. But I bet that was some pretty good money.
Oh yeah.
Compared
I know I read
now.
reports that like he was very interested, or like the offer was really good or something.
It's hard to say no to that.
Yeah. So I mean, but he did, and I guess good for him. Like, he loves where he's at, and I can't imagine why he doesn't. So, but it's still that hard thing to like say no to. But let me ask you this: so with Dan Hurley out of the picture, I don't know if JJ Redick jumps back in, and what you think, because I think we obviously know that JJ Redick's quite the basketball mind, but obviously he has no direct coaching experience, and I think the last guy that I can think of that comes to mind with that is Jason Kidd, who hopped around. I think he was the Nets head coach, then the Bucks, and now obviously the Mavericks.
I think that's right, yeah.
But I remember his Nets / Buck days not being, like very. Oh, and Steve Nash. There's another one. Steve Nash quickly out of the Bucks head coach.
Yeah, that's right.
And obviously Steve Nash, quite a great mind. So I don't know. Are you worried about JJ Redick? Is it too quick of a jump? Do you got to go into the assistant coaching role, kind of learn that first, or is it going to be good because him and LeBron already clearly have that good relationship?
Yeah, and I feel like that's what it comes down to is that relationship. I feel like that's what's making him a front runner for that position. And I mean, the LeBron is a very vocal guy. He's gonna do a little bit of coaching himself. So them having like that connection in the first place, they might be able to build each other up enough to really do something there. But you make a good point. Usually it's kind of like you work your way up there through coaching roles, and he hasn't done that. But I think it would be cool to see him coach, and
I
I'd be
think so,
sad.
too.
I would be sad to see a lot of what he's doing now go away because that's going to be, his only job at that point. That's too much work to. I probably wouldn't see him doing any podcasts after that, right? Like, I would miss some
we don't get that
podcasts.
publicly, but yeah.
But I feel like he's probably got what it takes, and I could see it actually happening. But
Because he's
it'll
definitely
be
a
interesting.
different mind. He's a different mind. Like, I know, me and you, we've been in basketball, been watching basketball our entire lives, and obviously all the shows, all the, we've seen former players come into media roles. I haven't seen anyone on the JJ Redick level of, like how articulate he is, how smart he is, how really good of a coach I would say he is, because I know we've talked about it, he's already taught me a lot of stuff just by watching his podcast, so maybe he would be good for that role. It's definitely a different, I don't think JJ Redick falls into the category of former players, former media people, you know what I mean? I think it would be different, so will definitely be interesting. But before we finish out the head coaching or the coaching news and move on to the finals, let's end it with a little bit of a, I don't know if I'd call it a joke, but because I know these are probably the two head coaches I've shit on the most for this past season. And I know Feist would probably enjoy this, but because I know he's not a fan of Doc Rivers, probably wasn't a fan of Darvin Ham, but Darvin Ham goes back to the Bucks, so that's where he was for 4 or 5 seasons, and joins Doc Rivers' coaching staff. So I don't know if you've already seen the memes on Twitter, but their clipboards where they're drawing that S or whatever, that cool looking S, in, we always did in elementary or whatever those freaking jokes are. But that is not the guy I would want to have attached to my name on my coaching staff.
I think where it makes sense is that people still believe in Darvin Ham, and I think it also keeps him in the mix. So he took a step down from a head coaching role to an assistant coaching role. So maybe stay in the mix and maybe get another head coaching role in the future or something. But I don't know. I feel like I always felt like the Lakers in the past few seasons have been quick to get rid of their coaches. So maybe Darvin Ham has a chance somewhere else. I think it gives him that chance. So in that aspect, I think it's pretty cool and probably a good way to handle it, and it puts him somewhere where he I think he was there when they won the championship as an assistant coach. Yeah. So obviously
probably
those
why
players,
he got the Lakers job.
Yeah, exactly. And the players probably trust him a lot because the Bucks haven't changed that much really since then. Some role players here and there, but
Drew Holiday.
Drew Holiday's probably the biggest name.
But probably.
It gives him another chance, I guess, and he's back to somewhere that he's probably more comfortable. So,
well, thank you for actually bringing in some legit journalistic perspective on that. Because I was just definitely just man, those are my two least favorite head
You're
coaches.
playing on their downfall, Kyle.
I don't know, because I just never got the Bucks thing. I think it's because I'm a fan of Budenholzer. And I think that's where it's kind of carried over. And then even they had Adrian Griffin, who was I think they were the number 1 seed in the East or even in the NBA, and that was after a pretty awesome season from the Celtics before. But obviously, it turned into something. So I think that's kind of where I'm at. But thank you for Like, hey, let's look at it from maybe he's gonna be okay as a head coach. Maybe he'll help Doc Rivers, right?
Maybe. Listen. I mean, Doc Rivers. He's controversial, right? People either like him or hate him. It seems like, and
Yeah.
he came in and seemed to do worse than the previous coach. And like again, that's another team. Why were they swapping their coaches in the first place?
That was
Budenholzer
such a
was doing
weird
so well, and then they're back. I mean, the guy that they got after that was better than Doc. It seemed like, at least for the team. I don't know
That's
what
where
they're
it's
up
like
to over there.
I don't want to root for the Suns. Obviously, they're in our conference and stuff, but like I just almost want to root for them just for Budenholzer, just because like I know, because it was all we talked about it. I know he lost to the 8 seed or whatever, but the 8 seed that made it to the finals. So it's like,
Yeah,
give
stuff
him
happens.
another chance. He's got Giannis.
And they had injuries.
Imagine him with Damian Lillard and Giannis and
Yeah.
Middleton and all the other players. They
And
still
everyone
got
healthy. Imagine that. They seem to not be good at that over there. But like, let's get people healthy before the end of the season.
Seriously. All right. Well, that was the news. Let's get right on into the finals because we got the first two games underway, and they've been definitely some interesting games. So let's start with game one. And like we were talking about, Sean, I know we were both kind of like watching this very closely. Is Kristaps Porzingis finally going to make it back? And he made it back. He sure did.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, he was more than back. He came in and he was on fire. I mean, it looked like he had not missed a single game, and he's been out for a month, I believe, or so.
Yeah, since the beginning of the playoffs, at least.
I mean, he came in, he was shooting lights out. I'm pretty sure in the first half he was like 7 for 9 or something like that. And they even did a little like interview with him. I was watching the game pretty closely, and they like when a quarter was about to start, they did a little side interview with him, and they're like, "What's making it so easy for you to like get it going right now?" He's like, "Listen, it's going." Like, he even was tooting his own horn. He was like, "It's feeling good." It like he was surprised with how good he was feeling. So that, I mean, I've been saying this for a long time, that like he's gonna really change their team to like their full form while he's been out, and he super proved it game one. Like
100%. And Boston, just as a whole, I feel like came out firing, and like Jaylen Brown's doing his thing, Drew Holiday's been doing his thing. Jason Tatum, the one guy that hasn't done as much as far as like you're just expecting him to be like the Kobe, the Curry, the LeBron, and dominate the game. I will say though, I don't know if you've seen it, but I feel like he's doing good as far as a playmaker. Like, he's actually making plays for his team. He's getting good assist numbers in games. Yeah, he's not
100%.
scoring 20, 25, 30 a game, but I remember talking about it. Like, we talked about it last week in our keys. Like, I thought he would really need to step up, but at the same time, Boston's got such a deep team that they don't need a Luka, right?
Yeah.
They don't need Jason Tatum to be Luka.
Realistically, this is the best case scenario if you're Boston, right? You have, in the first game, Porzingis being the guy that was like the X factor that basically won that game. You come out game 2, you got Drew Holiday leading your scoring.
Yep.
Okay, so this is the best case scenario. Jason Tatum hasn't had to score. Like,
and you're
they're
at
doing that.
2-0.
He's just making the play that makes sense at the moment, and it's get the ball to Porzingis or get the ball to who's hot. And I think that you want to see that over like him trying to find his own, because that's Boston's identity, is that they are a team and they have 5, 6, 7 dudes starter quality that are ready to take over. So
at any moment,
I mean, it's cool. I think they're playing great. I mean, that first game was very convincing, I would say. So
it definitely was, and I know I saw a lot of people, and I talked to a lot of people. I was even, I'm playing pickleball, talking to a couple of our friends that don't know as much, and they're like asking about it, and some kids playing basketball over there. I'm like, Boston's the deep team, but I got them. I think I'm going to pick Boston in 6, like I said. And he goes, "What? Like, are you crazy? Like, they're going to choke. You've seen what Luka and Kyrie are doing right now," which Yeah, I know. Like they've been going off, and Luca is different, man. Like he is
Oh yeah.
different. That's no doubt. But
Yep.
I think what we've seen is that it's really a cool way to see what Boston's doing. And I almost wish the Jazz could have done this kind of like in the past, where I feel like they're almost just letting Luca get his 30 or whatever he's going to get, and that's what I said. Like in our keys last week, is that Luca's going to do what Luca's going to do. I mean, at this point, you realize you can't stop the man. He can
Yeah.
score on you from wherever. It doesn't matter who's on him. Like, it doesn't matter if it's a guard, doesn't matter if it's Rudy Gobert, doesn't matter if it's anybody. Like, he's going to get his. And I think it mattered more about everything else. And I'll say this: I know Feist isn't here to defend himself, and it's not like it was a big deal, but he thought Drew Holiday should be on Luca, and I was like, I almost feel like I like Drew Holiday on Kyrie a lot more. And then you can throw other things at Luca. You can throw the Derek Whites, the Jalen Browns, and then you try to have Drew Holiday on Luca or Kyrie, where it kind of makes more sense, like size wise and everything, and you can shut him down. And that's another thing is that I think
And that's what they've been doing
about,
mainly. I think
yeah.
I think that's mainly what they've done. So yeah.
Oh, 100%. And that's what I was a key for Dallas to win is that Kyrie. What I said at least last week is that Kyrie's going to need to step up, and he just really hasn't done that so far this series. I know he had 12 points in game one. He was 0 for 5 from 3, and so obviously not what you need from your number two. And Luka can't do it all by himself. Like however great he is, he can't do it all by himself against this Boston team that we're talking about being the best. They've been all season. They're the best team in the NBA, right?
Yep.
So I think that's kind of what we're seeing in these playoffs.
I feel like
in the finals.
In the finals, yeah. I feel like they've controlled the East with so much ease, right? They've been so far ahead all season. They haven't gone to more than 5 games in the postseason, I believe, right? So they've
still only lost 2 games the entire postseason.
4-0, 4-1, 4-1.
Yep.
They
2-0.
are up 2-0. They're handling things just like they did in the East. I think that they're the most complete team, and I really hope. I don't think the series is over. I'm not trying to say that at all. I think that Dallas played much better in the second game. They made decent adjustments.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I don't think it's far from over.
They were going to win the game, and it's in the first quarter. I'll say, especially, and even in the first half. Excuse me, they were on fire. Like they were hitting most shots, even the role players and stuff.
And Boston looked human finally, right? They only hit a few threes in the first half.
Dude, they were 1 for 9. Yeah, they were 1 for 9. I think they had a corner Al Horford 3. That was it. And it was like right at the end, too. The whole thing, they were showing like 0 for 7, 0 for 6, 0 for 8 the whole first quarter, and they barely got one. Like, they were struggling.
They were struggling, and I think that Dallas has the personnel to bother them enough. When they're playing hard-nosed defense, really getting down to it, they can bother them, right? But that's also been Boston's identity. They're willing to miss in bulk, because they believe Joe Mazzulla is a big math guy as well, kind of analytical mind. He, as long as it's good looks, he doesn't care how many you've missed. He wants those threes going up. That's their identity. They have amazing passing. Their entire team can hit threes, and their 2 main guys, like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, create really good space when they drive and kick. So I mean, that's like their identity, and to see them persevere through shooting struggles, it's got to be a little scary for Dallas, I think.
Yeah.
But Dallas has them at home now, so I hope to see them take maybe both of these games, kind of bring it back down to earth, make Boston kind of feel it a little bit, because and I think that Boston might come in with a bit of a mindset of like, we got this, Same thing, they've been handling it. They've been handling it. Dallas has to come out and punch them for sure, and this third game is going to be big on that, I think. So
they definitely do. I think if you're Boston, like, you gotta. I feel like this game 3 in so many series, like, if you could try to look at it more as like a game 7, if you had the pressure on the line, like because there's literally been no teams that have come back from 3-0. And
Yeah.
if you look at it like that, like, and if you can go in and take that, if you think like, that one game, you've already got 2-0, like imagine, we talk about like the Jazz with the Clippers, that once we were up 2-0. And if we took game 3, if we found a way to take game 3, like that just opens up so many other things, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
so that's where you might be right about Boston. Like, are you feeling good? Are you feeling like you've got this in the bag? Because we know that Luka can come off, and Kyrie, like Luka's going to do his thing. Kyrie hasn't
And he
yet,
has.
and
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
going. He's probably going to. He's got the ability to, right?
Yep.
And so, if you're Boston, you got to stay disciplined, and you really can't let them get back in this series. Like, it's going to be really
Mm-hmm.
important. Now, I think as fans, like, yeah, we want to see. We want to see a good series and stuff. I know for me personally, Wesley's still the only one with the chance to catch me in the pick'em standings that we got.
Yeah.
And that would be if basically I'm rooting against Dallas there. So if Boston wins, I'm good. Um, but I definitely still want to see a good series. Like it would be that's what I hated about like the Golden State Warriors, the Kevin Durant run especially, is that I think it was a 4-0 sweep one year and a 4-1.
Yeah, I'm
And
pretty
then
sure
that
that's
one
right.
game was like pretty lucky, and like
Yeah.
the Warriors should have won it, but yeah, I think I actually remember like Klay Thompson getting asked reports like, did you just want to go back home so you could win it in front of your home fans or something like that? And he shut it down, but that was kind of like a narrative. So it's
Yeah.
gonna be, I don't know, it's gonna be exciting. I think Dallas will. I think Dallas will have an answer, especially in front of that home crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be a cakewalk for Boston. It's still the hardest team that they've had to face so far.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if I were to ask you, what are your keys for Dallas to get back in this series, to take game 3, hopefully, like you said, game 4, and bring it back to Boston with the split series?
I think the biggest thing, I think Luka's done pretty solid in this series. He's kind of doing his thing. The biggest thing is probably, it's got to be Kyrie. Kyrie's gonna, and I think he's gonna come out game 3 really looking to get like a good feel. I think he's gonna come out and really try and score because he has struggled.
Yeah.
And if he comes out aggressive and is feeling it, that could really, really like cause some issues for Boston, because if they're both going, it's hard.
That
You
makes it
know,
so much more difficult. Yeah.
it makes it a lot more
100%.
difficult. And then I think that also after a couple of games, hopefully at this point, the other role players, Derek Lively, Gafford, they've been a little bit slower against Boston, even though they've been so good really for the Dallas's run so far. Hopefully they've got a little bit more of a feel for like how they can be more impactful, and I think guys like that after a few games hopefully will step up a little bit too, and I think that's going to be big for Dallas to get back into it.
Those are great points, Sean. I think I think you hit the nail on the head. And I would say, like, if I were Dallas, like, feed Kyrie the ball in the first quarter. First
Get him
quarter more
going.
than anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think Luka's on that level. Like, Luka and Jokic are just that, like, type of player where they don't even have to be rhythm guys. Like, there's so many rhythm, scorers in today's day where Luka, he'll just be able to do whatever he needs to do whenever, right? But if you can get
Hmm.
Kyrie going earlier, get that confidence going, see that ball go through the hoop several times, like that's going to make a difference. Because although like I wouldn't call Kyrie a rhythm shooter, a rhythm scorer, or anything, I still think he's definitely it's gonna boost his confidence. So that's what the only
Yeah.
thing I would like even slightly add on to what you said is like, yeah, get Kyrie going, get him
Yeah.
going, and fast and early. And then if you're Boston, just keep doing what you're doing, and I wouldn't say like force Tatum into it, but like if you're Tatum, just step up your game. And if Tatum can go off, just like we're saying with Kyrie, if Tatum can go off and he hasn't even done that yet, and you're up 2-0, it's going to make it really
Yeah.
difficult for Dallas, right?
100%. Yeah, that could really
Awesome.
shut down everything that they try and get going if Tatum starts really performing as well on top of everything that's already going right for Boston.
Exactly. I mean, it would be quite a catastrophic loss if they. I can't imagine the Boston memes if they end up we're up 2-0 right now and they lose this series.
That would be awesome.
Twitter's gonna be fire for the summer. That's for
It would
sure.
be beautiful. It would be a beautiful thing. I mean, I know that I said that Boston's winning the series, but I think I told you I was like, I feel like low key I'm rooting for Dallas.
Yeah.
I want Dallas to come out somehow, but I mean, they've been showing that they're some dogs. You know, it's been impressive what they've done. But Dallas did better game 2. Maybe they can take game 3 and really start getting some. Yeah, it might really change things.
Yeah, series is not over. I think So
no way.
We'll probably have game 3 drop before the podcast. I think we're recording it the day before game 3, so we will definitely keep you updated on that. We'll recap. Hopefully, we're not just recapping 2 games next week. That would be kind of sad, and that would mean the season is over. But Sean, man, thank you for joining us again. It's always a pleasure to have you on. Like I said, a legitimate basketball mind. We can keep at least a lot of fan stuff out of there, and it's always a pleasure. It's always good talking to you. It's always good talking some ball with you.
Well, yeah, thanks for having me, man. I love coming on here and talking a little ball. So
Always. Okay, well, you guys all have a good one, and we'll check you next time.